Detroit Lions fans, Detroit Den 313 back with another one. Steve and Will here. Before we get going, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button. Trying to grow the channel. It helps us out tremendously. So please, it's free. Hit that button for us. And if you like the show, go ahead and hit that like button. Steve, what the heck are we talking about, man?
We're trying to think outside the box today. All right, we're trying to, this is content creation. We're trying to get creative with what we talk about. So we're going to talk about a scenario with the NFL draft, the Detroit Lions trading up, getting a little aggressive. Well, first of all, before we get into players and that kind of thing, how do you feel about this draft? And is this a trade up type of draft in your opinion?
I feel like it's both. I feel like there's some players that set themselves apart that would be worth trading up for. And I feel like on a second wave of these players, there's a lot of similar players that roll into the second round. So if you, as we say all the time, if you see somebody you like, go get your man. Go get your man. So I could easily see Brad doing what what he's always done ever since I've known him to be a GM. Trade up and go get a guy that you feel like absolutely fits your team. And if not, I could easily see us trading back as well. So not to be a politician's answers. I just think that's what this draft is about. You got a lot of guys that fall into positions of need for us that are kind of similar. So I don't think it's we absolutely have to draft at pick 28. I think you could easily see us push back into the second round, or if you're in love with somebody like a couple of these guys that we're in love with, you could trade up and go get them.
I'll be honest, you've known me for a long time. Well, we've talked football for years and years and years, way before even podcasting. I'm usually pretty aggressive when it comes to the draft. I usually have one or two guys, and I'm like, man, I need one of these two guys to end up a Detroit Lion. Sometimes they're out of our reach. Sometimes they fall to us like a Penny Sewell and Aiden Hutcherson falling right into our lap. But in this draft, I have a different mindset, and it's kind of conflicting. And trust me, even I'm a little confused by it. So I know, before people start calling me a hypocrite or whatnot, I've said that I don't think the Lions are spending 7 draft picks in this draft. I don't know where Brad's going to get aggressive. If I had to guess, it would be the first or second round. He's maneuvered those 2 rounds better than any other round, I think, in my opinion. He's traded up in the first round every year except for one when he landed Penny Sewell. He maneuvered to get J-Mo. He traded back and maneuvered to get Jahmyr Gibbs and Jack Campbell. He traded up last year to get Terrion Arnold. So he maneuvers the first round of the draft very, very well. I just look at this draft and I think there's a lot of talent to be had. So if it's a trade up draft, who does he have in mind? Who's out there that could really, really, really be that true difference maker for the Detroit Lions? I think we got some good names today to talk about. There's not many people in this draft I'm willing to trade up for, but just playing along with what we're talking about today, I think there's only 3 guys, and we're going to talk 2 of them. Maybe we'll even mention, the other one if we just get rolling. But who do you got in mind, and what was your draft scenario, Will?
Listen, so for me, there's a guy that I feel like easily could slide down the board a little bit, but I feel like he has tremendous upside, and I think that's what you're looking for. You're looking for someone sliding for a reason. Why did J-Mo slide? Because he was hurt. You know what I mean? So there can be an abundance of reason why people slide. It could be character issues. It could be an injury. It could be, something with their measurables or personality problems. They just don't love football. Like we talk about with James Pierce is a thing that's being tossed around. So there's a tremendous amount of reasons, but I feel like if someone fits everything else and you feel like you're willing to bet the farm, or if you're a GM who's got enough pedigree, enough success stories behind them that you are concrete enough in your job that you can take a chance, that's when you make your move, man. So for me, my trade up scenario today was if a person falls anywhere within 10 slots, right? And this guy that I'm talking about today is none other than Muel Williams. Muel Williams, for me, is a guy that I could easily see sliding. And I could see that for this reason alone. He spent last year playing on an injured ankle. And I don't believe that he was 100% himself, right? You didn't get to see the best version of him, but he was still out there gritting it out, playing tough week after week. He couldn't even practice for the first half of the season. He was just getting treatment, getting it wrapped, and playing in the games, right? So this is a guy who was really playing handicap all year, still found a way to get, I believe, let me double check and not give you guys bad stats, still found his way to 5 sacks, right? So pretty much on pace with what he's been doing. So still found his way to 5 sacks and still found his way to some good football when you watch the film. So when I look at Muel Williams, and I'll put in a little clip for you. He's a guy that's going to be able to rush you off the edge, like you see there. He's tough, but they use him on stunt games, as you can see there. They'll also use him inside and outside. He played a little bit of defensive tackle sometimes for certain snaps. He's a guy that's dropped back into coverage. He can bull rush you. He can swipe. He can rip. He can beat you with a little bit of speed. He's a guy that has a lot of, I'm not going to say a lot, but he has a few. He's not like one of these guys that we talked about in Josiah Stewart yesterday. That's just a one-trick pony, but he doesn't necessarily have the type of pass rush game where he has multiple moves with a counter move, right? So his move that he's trying is what he's doing. He's not going to be setting you up and then reacting off of basically what you're doing or what type of block you're trying to give him. He's not doing that yet. But when I look at this is a dude who's 20 years old. He's strong as an ox. He has a bull rush sometimes that reminds me of a guy like Marcus Davenport. Like he just gets into your chest and drives you back. He's got a nice long arm. He can beat you with speed. 6'5", right? He's 265 pounds, almost 270 pounds. I think at Pro Day he was 267. And he jumps up and bats down footballs, which I absolutely love. That's another thing. If he can't get to you, you can jump up and knock those footballs down. Just a guy that I feel like he fits a guy that would be perfect opposite of Aiden Hutcherson. But you got to understand, it could be similar to a Walker situation from out there in Jacksonville, because it took him a little time to catch on. I don't think that Muel Williams is going to come into the league and just hit the ground running. Will he be serviceable and an upgrade? He will. But I think over the next 2 to 3 years, this is going to be a guy when he hits 22, 23 years old. That's when you're really going to reap the benefits of having him and Aiden out there. When he learns how to have counter moves, when he learns how to have a pass rush plan, he would be a guy that would be a problem. 6'5", 270. Now, last thing before I turn it over to you, Steve. His pro day. Does his pro day match his film? I don't think so. He ran a 4.75 in his pro day. Now, what happens after the football season when most of these guys that are going to the draft, they immediately start training for the Pajama Olympics? He didn't get that opportunity. He was battling his ankle injury after his season ended. He started resting and trying to get his ankle to heal up. He didn't get the opportunity to get with a track coach and, like some of these other guys did. He had to take some weeks to heal up before he could get prepared for the combine. So for those reasons, I can understand his testing not being out of this world, but I still think he's faster than that 4.75. Right? And I think that the film don't lie. So when you get a 100% healthy guy, I think that the ceiling is out of the stratosphere. So that said, Muel Williams, man, how you feel about him, Steve?
William, he was one of the very first prospects we talked about. I think he was a guy that I selected, and I said everything you're saying. He's raw. He's still a baby. Like, he can't even drink a beer yet. He can't even go to the bar with the adults after 9:00 without getting kicked out. All right. I'm willing to trade up for him because I see his potential as being absolutely through the roof. I don't like to give player comps, but I can see. I like how you said Marcus Davenport, because I think he's what we want Marcus Davenport to be: younger, physical, violent, still raw, but pure. His athleticism is just going to be through the roof. I think within 2 years, I think we could see a solid defensive end opposite of Aiden Hutchinson. I could potentially see some Pro Bowls in his future. I don't know about like Hall of Fame or All Pros or anything like that, but I think he could have a very, very good career. I think his athleticism is untapped. You get Casey Rogers, let him get his hands on him for a year or two, let him really develop some more pass rush moves and just learn how to use his body. I think he's just a big kid, and he's like a giraffe out there. He doesn't know how to fully use his legs yet when he's born. I just don't see any risk to drafting him. I think it's just going to be Lions fans might have to be a little patient, but I could still see him being a guy that just gets on a football field and is at least able to play, which is huge. And like I said, there's really only 3, maybe 4 guys I'm willing to trade up for in this draft. Muel Williams is one of them, because every time, if you watch any other main network podcast or anyone who does like a lot of draft talk, like Mo Kiper, Daniel Jeremiah, I watch a lot of those guys. They say that how raw he is, how he's just learning the game still. Like he doesn't have full control of his body because he's so young and just doesn't have that experience. Once he gets experience and gets someone to mentor him, I'm not saying Aiden Hutchinson's in like a mentorship role yet, but if they're picking each other's brains in that defensive line room and they're working on some stuff together, I think that could be a deadly combination, William.
Listen, I stand on what Aleem McNeil said about Aiden Hutcherson. Aleem McNeil said Aiden Hutcherson was the only football player that he's ever seen come into the NFL as a rookie and look like a pro. And I don't mean by even his technique, just by how he carried himself. How he carried himself from drill to drill, how he carried his intensity level, how he was taking care of his body after practice, staying and watching film. He said from day one, Aiden Hutcherson looked like a pro's pro. So I think having a guy like that in the building as kind of the benchmark for what you're trying to do, and he's a winner too, man. And not to say that that Mike Hill isn't a winner, but Aiden's a winner. Like he's shown that wherever he goes, he can bring the winning culture with him. He was part of this turnaround, man. So I think those two helping each other figure it out, it would just be huge. It would be huge.
Aiden was the key piece of the Michigan football turnaround too, if we're being honest. Like we could have a whole episode on that, but he was the key piece in getting that monkey off our back with beating Ohio State for the first time in however many years. And then he took his draft stock and said, "Hey, I got to take this to the pros. I just set the Michigan single season record for sacks. I got to get up out of here and go get paid." And that's exactly what he did. And Michigan's been on a winning trajectory ever since. A little bump of the road this past season, but Bryce Underwood will solve all those problems next year. We'll talk about that later. But comes to the Lions, same thing, like a little bit of a rough rookie year. We don't finish exactly how we wanted, missed the playoffs by a game. But after that, Aiden was on pace to have like, what do we say is like 24 and a half sacks or something he was on pace to have, which is just absolutely crazy. I don't think he would have got that, honestly. But just to see that he was on pace to get over 20 sacks was absolutely wild before he got hurt, and still leading the Lions in pretty much every sack category, pressures and all that, with only playing 6 weeks is crazy. So you give him a Muel Williams on the other side. William, what I'm trying to do with this defense is just, and I hate that I have to keep using the Philadelphia Eagles as my reference, but what they did in the Super Bowl is what I've been wanting the Lions to do way before that even happened. And that's just winning with rushing four. All right. If you got four guys out there that can constantly win a one-on-one, I know there's 5 offensive linemen for everyone who's keeping track. Yes, I'm aware. But someone has to be in a one-on-one situation. Who are you going to leave single covered? Is it going to be Aiden Hutchinson? Good luck. Is it going to be Aleem McNeil? Good luck. Is it going to be DJ Reader? Probably not. He's massive. Draft a Muel Williams. I think he could win some one-on-ones from time to time. So I'm just looking at how can we get pressure with just 4 guys? Because I'm not talking Davenport all day, but I just don't trust him to stay healthy. So I have to have a serviceable option there. And if we're getting 4 rush, a solid pass rush with 4 guys with this brand new kind of secondary that we've put together the past 2 seasons, William, we got ball hawks. We got Brian Branch who can make plays. We got DJ Reed who can lock down people. We got Amik Robertson who was playing like one of the best corners in the NFL last year. If we're sending all those guys just into coverage and doing what the Eagles were doing and just putting pressure on quarterbacks with just rushing 4, that's all I've been wanting the Detroit Lions to do for like the last 3 seasons. So Muel Williams would be a huge piece.
Yeah. But with those Philadelphia Eagles, I will say Jalen Carter makes a huge difference.
He does.
You know what I mean? And even Jordan Davis, those guys are tough to deal with one-on-one matchups. And when you got a one-on-one matchup with one or the other, and then you got guys that are dogs rushing off of the edge, problems. So that said, Aleem, can't wait till you're back because this thing is really going to be enhanced when we get an upgrade on the edge at some point in this draft. I don't know that it'll be at 28, but I do believe that we're going to get an edge at some point in this draft, and it'll be an upgrade from what we've had. So, yeah, exciting, man. But Muel Williams, Steve, so let me say this. What would you be willing to give up to trade up? All right. So if we're going to trade up, I would say anywhere 10 slots, like 18 would probably be my cutoff to where we're going to go. Would you be willing to give up a second-round pick to trade up to 18?
It's funny you asked me that because when I was doing the Pro Football Network mock draft simulator, and I was trying all different kinds of trades just to see what would go through. And the number I told you I picked was let me look just so I have a better reference. I just picked the number 20. Just, hey, let's get a top 20 pick. So I'm still within your range of moving up 10 or less. And it made me give up a second round pick. Now, am I doing that in real life? No, because I'm not picking at pick 20 and then not having another pick again until pick 102, I'm not missing out on 82 guys. So I would never absolutely do that. So I was kind of thinking, and you tell me if I'm being unrealistic here, Will. I was thinking I'd give up pick 102 and maybe a third round next year to move up. Do you think that might be somewhat fair? And obviously swapping the first, do you think that's somewhat realistic?
I don't know. I'd have to look at the chart, to be honest.
I didn't look at the chart. I was just kind of messing around, and the simulator made me give up the second round. There's absolutely no way I would do that. I'm not going 82 picks with the draft this deep and missing out on all that talent to do that. But that's what I had to do. So I traded that for pick 20 to who was that pick 20? Was it the Steelers, I believe? The Denver Broncos. Steelers were 21. And I don't know how this happened, Will, and I don't think that this is a realistic scenario, but I was sprinting to the podium with Jalen Walker from Georgia also being there. Now, do I think he's going to be there at pick 20? Probably not. Was he there in the simulator? Yes. If I ran that simulator 10 times, would he be there? Probably not, but he was in this one, and I think he's worth talking about because he's one of those guys I would trade up for, William. How do you feel about Jalen Walker?
Jalen Walker's a hell of a football player. When I think about him in the Detroit Lions, though, I think he's more of an off-ball linebacker. When I look at his measurables and his traits, and that's pretty much what he's played, at Georgia too, even though he has had his hand in the dirt rushing off of the edge too. He's got the smaller arms. Like when you're talking about Muel Williams, you're talking about almost 35-inch arms. Right, 34 is the benchmark, and he's almost hitting 35. That reminds me of a guy like Myles Garrett, and long arms, long. When you're talking about Jalen Walker, I believe you're talking about 32-inch arms. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't have it in front
32.
of me.
6'1", 243, 32-inch arms.
Yeah, so we're going to be looking at a guy who is going to be really, again, challenging for one of those linebackers positions. I'm not going to sit up here and tell you that he's not going to beat out Derek Barnes, but I haven't seen him play that same linebacker position. He was playing more of that interior linebacker position for Georgia. So I don't know. It's kind of one of those things. I don't know exactly what his fit would be with the Detroit Lions. I would venture to tell you that Coach Shepard would find him a fit if he was in Honolulu Blue. Dude's a heck of a football player, man. He offers a lot of things, but to me, if I'm drafting a linebacker, I'm going to draft Jahad Campbell, right? I'm going to draft Jahad Campbell. And I feel like Jahad Campbell may be easier to get to than Jalon Walker, man, because I think Jalon Walker is probably going to be one of those guys that goes in the top 10, the top 15 picks. So what we would have to give up to go get him, I don't know. But if for some reason he slid. So if maybe Jahad Campbell's the first linebacker to go off the board, we don't know what could happen. Stranger things have happened. So maybe Jahad Campbell's the first linebacker to go. Jalen Walker's or Jalon Walker slides down the board a little bit. He gets in striking distance. I don't know, maybe, man, because there are some edge rushers in the second round, but you probably have to give up that second round pick depending on where you go to slide up. So then you're telling me, Steve, this is really going to be tossed at you, but this is your guy. So if you're telling me you trade up, you lose that second round pick, and then maybe you get a Powell Ryland, right? So maybe you can match those guys up. Maybe he's that fan backer. Maybe Ryland's your edge guy. I mean, you got other guys out. You got Jordan Burks. Maybe you can match him up with a guy like Jordan Burks. There's going to be some guys there in the third round that could be commercials as well. Does that interest you?
It interests me, but like I said, I can't give up that second round pick. I had to do it for the sake of the show and having something to talk about, but there's no way I'm giving up that second round pick just to move up 8 spots. I think that second round pick is very, very, very valuable in this draft. I just look at Jalen Walker and like you're saying some names, and like there's a name out there like Niggy Manware that a lot of people might be interested in to come in, and maybe he plays that linebacker / safety / corner. I don't know what the hell he's going to play, but he's just an athletic freak that I think a lot of people are going to be intrigued with too. But I didn't draft and trade up for a player in mind. I just picked the number 20 and wanted to see who was there. And I don't believe Jahad Campbell was there. I can't remember. I should have took a screenshot of it and shared it, so shame on me. But when I saw him, he was there, and I looked at all the edges, and I was like, those are guys I think I can get in the second round. Like there was JTT, who I'm in love with, Jack Sawyer, who I'm not really interested in, and I don't think you are either. But I just looked at, all right, I don't think any of those guys are worth drafting at pick 20 where I am for this draft. So who's worth pick 20 right there? And Jalen Walker was just screaming at me. His athleticism, we talk about all the time. Can we make this defense more athletic? And you took the words right out of my mouth, Will, because I knew you were going to ask me, Steve, where are you going to play Jalen Walker? Because we have Jack Campbell and Alex Anzalone, we're going to get him on the field. And I was going to say Kelvin Shepard will find somewhere for him to play. He will find a role for him. I have no doubt about that. Now, is he a perfect fit for the Detroit Lions? I wouldn't call it a perfect fit. If I were being honest with you, I like Muel Williams a little bit more just because I think he is a better fit for the Detroit Lions. But I can't ignore athleticism. And we were looking at some stuff before we started recording, and I couldn't find any information about Georgia's pro day. Come to find out, Walker didn't do any of the drills at the pro day. And you said he's going to do them like a week or two before the draft. He's going to have a little private workout for teams. So, hey,
April 17th.
We're going to be tracking that Detroit Lions jet and see where it's at on April 17th. And I got Brad's air tag that he doesn't know about in his suitcase. I'll see what hotel he's staying at, and we'll be tracking him because I'm interested, but I don't think Jalen Walker is a 10 out of 10 perfect fit. But his athleticism interests me.
Yeah. I will tell you that I wouldn't give up that second round pick for Walker, but I would give up that second round pick for Muel Williams because I feel like the juice is worth the squeeze. So, and you're going to get some type of, draft equity back. I think when we traded up to 10 slots before, we swapped our pick, gave up a second round, and then got a seventh rounder or something in return. There's some things that we can do in this draft. I think Hendon Hooker is still on the board to make something happen too. That could sweeten the deal up, and maybe we keep a second round pick and make it a third round pick that we got to give up and Hendon Hooker or something like that. So I just think that there's combinations of things and ways. Brad's already scoping out to be able to trade up if he wants to. I agree with you. I think there is only a select few guys that'll be in striking distance and worth us trading up. Muel Williams is just one of them. I just look at those measurables, man. Like when you got the same arm length or close to as guys like Myles Garrett who have those special almost dang near 35-inch arms, when your upside is unbelievable, but your floor is pretty doggone good too. So, when you come in and you start in this NFL, you're already probably be an upgrade from, definitely the Josh Pascals of the world. So no offense to him, but this is a guy that's a first round draft pick with special talents. And I think if his ankle isn't injured, he's probably a top 10 pick, going into this draft. So just again, man, Brad finds ways to find value in situations where other people aren't, looking at that type of value for a person. Maybe other guys don't want to deal with that ankle injury. We know that he's okay with drafting a guy who's banged up, but when he knows their potential or he's seen how they've been in the past, I think there's some elite bursts there that he hasn't been able to use because he hasn't been able to push off that ankle for a while now. If you're telling me that we get a guy that is comparable to Aiden Hutcherson on the opposite end of him, then we still got Aleem McNeil, and who knows? There's still a lot of guys. There's a lot of defensive tackles that'll still be around in that third round too. I pick 102. So I mean, you'll be looking at matching him up with your guy Ty Robinson. There's my boy Alexander out of there's my boy Alexander out of Toledo, man. There's just a lot of there's a lot of guys that I like in this draft defensively. I told you I like the Powell Ryland. He's another one that I like. Is he a guy that maybe could stand up? Could you be matching up one of these guys with Josiah Stewart? You know what I mean? If we find a way to keep that pick 60, it's just literally the possibilities are endless. But like you said, trading up, it's got to be somebody who's special, who's worth losing a player on your team or losing some draft equity. You know what I mean? So Muel Williams, I know a couple people have put it into the comments that they really like him. He is a guy that I also enjoy. I just think that he'll be gone before striking different distance, but he is the last guy, Steve, that I feel like when I watched the Daniel Jeremiah's, the Mel Kipers, and some of these other CBS and ESPN and all of these mock drafts, oftentimes he's the last guy that I consider that first tier wave of pass rushers going. So if we can get a first tier wave pass rusher instead of the pass rusher that we're going to get at 28, who could be, is going to be a solid piece, but they're not going to have all of the things. Muel Williams stops the freaking run too, which is Brad's shown that he wants a guy who stops the run opposite of Aiden Hutcherson, a big, strong guy who's stout. All right. He offers pass rush. Man, he offers some speed and some burst. He offers athletic ability to be able to play stunt games or drop back into coverage at times. Hey, listen, scary. They can be scary. I can't even imagine the stunt games you could play with the athleticism of guys like Aleem McNeil, Levi Onwuzurike, who showed that he can play stunt games. Like if I got Aleem McNeil, Levi Onwuzurike, Aiden Hutcherson, and then you're telling me that I got Muel Williams, my stunt games can be infinite. I can do whatever. I might play stunt games with Aiden and Muel. What are we talking about? You know what I mean? So I don't know. It just Muel Williams excites me, man. The potential is through the roof, man. When I think about Walker, I think it's a little bit tougher to be able to get, but I do agree with you there. I think Coach Shepard would figure out a way to make it happen. No different than he figures out ways to get Rodrigo on the field. You know, our starters are Alex Anzalone, Derek Barnes, and Jack Campbell, right? But Rodrigo finds his packages where he's on the field too. So I think it would start off as a package deal, him trying to figure out ways to get him on the field. My only knock with that would be we're still looking at the same pass rush situation unless we draft somebody else, but it's going to be that third tier of edge rusher now. So what would that look like?
I'll say this about Muel Williams too. You know, he obviously plays at the University of Georgia. They are a powerhouse every year for like the last 10 years. They always have a top 10 recruiting class. For Muel Williams to come out of high school and walk onto the field and get meaningful reps at the University of Georgia at 18 years old should tell you pretty much everything you need to know about his capabilities, because that is a very, very deep Georgia team that puts a lot of people in the NFL a lot of the time. Like, they are a powerhouse. Maybe the Detroit Lions, you know, hey, we had some fun with some Alabama guys, but now let's go get some dogs. You know what I'm saying? Well, like, we go get some Georgia dogs. And yeah. I like Muel Williams. And when you picked him, I was kind of like, man, fuck, Will, I can't believe you did that to me. Like, that was going to be a guy I was going to be looking at. But I can't ignore the idea of his potential, because I don't like saying Myles Garrett, but I get the comparison with the arms. And I don't think he'd be close to the career Myles Garrett's going to have, but if he's just a poor man's version of Myles Garrett, we've still struck gold. So I absolutely love the idea of it. Again, I'm usually aggressive in drafts. I'm usually the impatient one who just wants to go out there, trade up, get my guy, don't worry about it. In this draft, we're going to do an episode where we trade back and throw out some ideas and scenarios. And I got some good cooking on the skillet, Will. I think you're going to like what I got cooked up, but we'll get to that later. You got anything else for tonight?
Nope, that's it, man. Leave it in the comments. Let us know how you're feeling. Would you trade up? You thinking trade back? Who you want if you trade up? We dropped 2 guys, but who's your guy if you're trading up?
Stick around, hit that like button. We'll be back later with another show.
Peace.